I have 3 words.
We've climbed all this way for 3 words?
Go on.
Fetch your dog!
All right.
Welcome, time-space tunnel diggers, despots with unexpectedly literal names, and the House of Longbarrow, to episode 430 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 30th of November, 2021, and featuring Flux, episode 5, Survivors of the Flux, written by Chris Chibnall and starring Jodie Whittaker as a doctor, Mandip Gill as Yaz, John Bishop as Dan Lewis, and that's all I'm going to say because there are too many recurring characters this season. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and that joke probably means I need to go buy a cup. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Oh, how did you guess?
Alex Fireheart.
I did not see the long barrow joke coming. I can't.
And
still
Mad Matt
recovering.
Winchell.
I live despite people trying to starve me.
How did you guess, Bill? I'm just sitting here. My response is going to be, and Bill has earned 1 kick in the dick for mentioning lung barrow. And I'm just like... I was just wondering, you were going to say, with my health, how are you going to stop me? Oh, I'll wait till I die. I'll haunt you like 5 Nights at Freddy's, boy.
Funny enough, I retweeted a tweet earlier this week, or I guess last week, depending on when you count the start of the week, mentioning lung barrow in a different context related to the Flux plot. But
Ah, lucky I didn't see that one, or it would be 2.
Pooh!
Yeah, it was either mention the cameo by what appears to be the House of Lungbarrow, or mention the presence of the other, and I figured that would earn the same amount of animosity.
Well, I do think that Chris Chibnall is cribbing some notes from the old master plan, but then twisting them, altering them, and fold spindling, mutilating them before making a script out of them. Andrew Cartmel is just probably rolling in his I don't know, is he dead?
I don't think so. He has no death date on Wiki.
Okay, so he's probably still alive.
Either way, I
He
would
wishes
prefer
he
his
wishes
plan.
he was dead so he could roll in his grave.
Either way, I would prefer his plan.
No.
So
no,
far.
No, both are abominations. Shut up, Matt. They're both evil. They're both evil people.
I'm not
that
saying
are
the
just
other one's good. I'm just saying it's better. That's not much of a comparison, though.
That's like saying I prefer a kick in the dick to a kick in the balls.
Exactly.
It's that, or we can go back to the 90s and have the Doctor be half human.
I can deal with that. I can bullshit on that one. But yeah, no. This just fucks way too much with the Doctor's origins to the point that it's like
Again,
you're
as
giving
we've discussed before, it undermines everything.
if you've screwed with the Doctor so much the Doctor doesn't know who the Doctor is, you've got a problem. Because if the Doctor was half human, the Doctor could still be somebody who just decided to, leave Gallifrey and wander the universe and wound up, basically saving people.
Mm-hmm.
This fucks with that. And that is why this is why I'm watching this with gritted teeth.
Mm-hmm.
How's everybody's
that
week going?
Oh, you finally got to asking it.
Yep.
Well, I had a non-Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
Aaron worked Thursday and Friday. Saturday we got my car jumped. Went out to eat at Cracker Barrel because they usually had a good Thanksgiving spread, but apparently that's only on Thanksgiving.
Ah,
So my Thanksgiving quote dinner was a chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and steamed broccoli,
Yeah.
and a piece of pumpkin pie. Ooh.
Yeah, I was left behind for Thanksgiving too because I had to work.
I remember you mentioning that.
I at least got chicken and mashed potatoes for my dinner while I was at work.
Oh. How much were you making that particular day? Were you making? I don't need to know the actual number. I mean, were you making time and a
I
half,
was
double
making time
time,
and a
triple
half.
time? Okay, because apparently,
It's a decent chunk.
uh,
I did the math
Aaron
before.
was making, Aaron was making overtime plus time and a half.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's gonna be
She
a nice
made
check when it
more in
comes in.
2 days. She made more in 2 days than she would make it 2 weeks back at her old job.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, she's absolutely like, ooh. And she did spread the love a little. She got me Cyberpunk 2077 on Steam because it was on a Black Friday sale for half price.
And she got herself a copy, and she got me a couple of my cheaper games on my wish list.
Mm.
Like my
So,
$5 or $10 and under games.
well, yeah, the thing is that the sale was actually like, okay, it's 50% off. I would love to see how it looks on this computer. And so she got it for me. I installed it, and yeah, it's fucking beautiful. You as much as people have issues with the gameplay, which has been mostly fixed over the past year, especially on PC. Um, it is a fucking beautiful game. As far as you're driving through Night City, and the reflections and the neon and everything looks
Hmm.
unbelievably cool.
Yeah, it's a game I'm going to get to, but it's a game like other CD Projekt Red games. It's a game I'll get to when I feel it's done and I can purchase it all at once because they usually are really good about having a finished package done and ready for sale at a decent price by the time they're done with it. I still haven't even touched the first 3 Witcher games yet, so I got those to worry
I've
about
heard
first.
the first one, the controls are a bit abominable.
The first one I've heard is a little touch and go, but they've also got director's cut editions, so hopefully some of that was fixed in that version.
Um, and then 2, 3. There's a few games I want, but now I actually have a computer with the processing power to actually play some of them decently.
Mm.
I'm gonna have to reinstall Civ 6 and see if I can actually play it worth a damn now. I think I'll wait a while before buying Grand Theft Auto, the definitive trilogy.
Oh, yeah. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole right now. As much as I was initially interested, I'm like, oh, right now,
My
because
Steam
that was a
account has
mess up.
copies of the original, so yeah.
Yeah, I have the original 3 and a couple of extra things, but yeah, I would have really liked an updated version just for it to be a little more accessible on my PC. But
Yep.
they've
And
botched it big time, and so we gotta wait.
oh yeah. And that was basically my weekend. This weekend I'm going to be making a pot roast, so that's going to be kind of my my Thanksgiving that I couldn't do.
On Thursday, I'm doing a double shift. Well, later in the day, I'm actually doing a shift at work, but earlier in the day, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to be getting to work. So that at 8:30, we can all leave and go out to our special business meeting where we get our employee specialty checks from the percentage of money made by the company that we get as a bonus. That's coming to us this week. So we get to go out for a 4-hour-ish ride, get our big bonus checks, and come back. And we get paid for it.
All right. So, how about the rest of you?
So I sort of had 3 Thanksgivings, but very sort of. So first, I went to Thanksgiving with my advisor, and so she's a vegetarian, and one of the other members of the lab that came has a lot of food allergies. He describes it as his stomach basically doesn't work anymore, which I don't know how much of that's hyperbole, but I know he has a lot of food restrictions. So that definitely affected what was cooked. But we had basically vegetarian ravioli as the main course, with some various like finger foods and some wine. So it was decent. Got to know my lab mates a little better, which is good in the COVID times when we don't actually sit side by side when we're working like we would normally. Then the next day, I was invited to a get together with basically a bunch of grad students from my department that had not gone anywhere for the break for various reasons. So a lot of them were international students, or just other people who stayed around for whatever reason. So that ended up being Chinese, Chinese takeout. So that was good. And then I was like, okay, I would like at least one, traditional Thanksgiving meal. So I ordered I found a place that had a Thanksgiving plate that would deliver, and I just had that for dinner by myself on the Saturday.
Fair enough.
Wish I could have done that, but I'm out of money right now.
Mm.
I'm trying to squat on my dollars, trying to keep them as long as possible. Oh yeah, I mentioned earlier the check. I'm planning to use that check for Christmas presents. My big bonus, and we'll see what happens to the rest of it afterwards.
Yeah. Aaron and I have been discussing what I can get her for Christmas. I know it's weird, but we kind of do that. For instance, last year I was going to buy her a new chair. But then her computer died, and so that money got siphoned to a new computer fund. This year she's thinking but not certain about going back into streaming. So we were talking about spending money to improve her streaming setup, including things like maybe a green screen, maybe some new lighting, a new microphone, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, she's not sure if she wants to or not. All right. So that leaves one person.
Yeah, I haven't really got up to much. Mainly just been playing Animal Crossing for the past week, and the stuff that I'll be talking about in Geek Talk. I haven't really been doing much else. Although I will say, apparently it's a good thing I wasn't able to work on Black Friday itself, but I worked the Saturday, and fuck that. Like, I mean, it wasn't as busy as Boxing Day will be, but it was like the busiest it's been in a fucking while, and it was like, fuck this. uh,
Yeah. Oddly enough, for where I work, Thanksgiving and Black Friday were a little squirrely, but they weren't like bad. It's probably just because we're lucky that people were like maybe mostly out of town or something for the holiday.
hmm.
So most people were stopping by to get gas and maybe a drink really quick on their way out.
Hey, do we got anything else?
I think that about covers it.
All right, so on tonight's show, I guess, moving on, we've got birthdays, we've got news. I don't think any of us have a particular rant. We got some geek talk. And then our episode's review, our final thoughts. And for one last week, we are withholding ratings.
Yep.
One more week.
So let's get into birthdays. The first birthday is on November 27th, and is the birthday of Verity Lambert, the original producer for Doctor Who back in the early 60s. She would have been 86, but died in 2007 at the age of 71. The next day is the 28th, and the birthday of Karen Gillan, Amy Pond. From 2010 2012, she turned 34. The 29th saw the birthday of Naoko Mori, Toshiko Sato in Torchwood. She turned 50. And then also the same day is the birthday of Michael Craze, who played Ben Jackson from 66 to 67. He would have been 79, but he died in 1997 at 56. And finally, John Bishop, who plays Dan Lewis, in this season turned 55. And very interesting, the birthday database I get all this information from actually lists his character as Dan Bishop.
Huh.
Whoops.
I went back and double checked after somebody corrected me and looked it up, and yeah, that's a typo on the birthday website.
Huh.
But happy birthday to Verity, Karen, Naoko, Maiko, and John. Moving on to episode news. So episode 5, the overnight ratings had an overnight viewing figure of 3.82 million viewers. This is up about 370,000 from last week. So this is the first time we've seen ratings jump. These numbers are unofficial and will be replaced by the Barb's official 4-panel numbers next week. The appreciation index for this episode is 77.
I guess it's a good thing that the viewing jumped this week. Because if people did what often happens and wait till the actual finale to tune in, they would have been so fucking confused. I mean, this is a confusing enough point to jump on, but jumping on in episode 6?
Yeah, I know. Well, the people that are going to be waiting for the end may be waiting to just binge watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Because
been
I'm
my
pretty-
theory on a lot
I'm-
of the low ratings to begin with, is that wait until like all of it's done and see what the binge watch numbers are like.
Mm-hmm. They're also probably waiting to see what other people say.
That too, possibly.
Because let's face it, and I'm saying this as a fan, but the reputation of Doctor Who as a quality show has been run through the trash.
It's been circling the drain a while, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I do find a lot of that disappointing, just because, as we mentioned a few times last month, just the sci-fi quality and the sci-fi writing and the visuals of this are so much more what we expect from Doctor Who than the past few seasons have been.
There's definitely been parts of this that are massively better than the last 2 seasons, which is a little bit odd, but at the same time, there are still things that undermine it.
Yeah, I want to say I'm sure there are people who are either not watching or giving a poor rating specifically because of the same things that I know have been bugging you about several of these episodes, and I'm very certain will come up during our review of this week's episode as well.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah. I do wonder at this point how many people are just like swearing off it until RTD takes over.
Yeah, I know there's
That
some
might
of
be
that
a
too,
thing
where some
too.
people are just like, well, I could tough it out and see if it gets better, or I can just wait for the showrunner that I have fond memories of to come back.
And please don't shame our memories.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's my friend Sammy, who lives in Kent, is pretty much on that bandwagon right now too. Was that I had mentioned that I was a Doctor Who fan, and Sammy was like, and then I mentioned RTD was coming back. It's like, oh, well, that'll be there. And Sammy was going to actually start watching this season, but decided to just push it off until RTD comes back.
Honestly, I don't blame that decision.
All right, so moving on to last week's episode, Village of the Angels. By the way, you might know Sammy as Wolf in Forest, who's occasionally
Occasionally does
watches
pop up
us.
and does watch us on the chat, yes.
Yeah, I had wondered why they hadn't been in the chat since the season actually started.
Sammy's been in a bit of a bad mood.
Gotcha.
Had some computer issues.
Oh, that doesn't help
That
either.
can be a bitch.
Mm-hmm. And is a little bit jealous of my new laptop. Just a little bit. Anyway, yes, last week's episode, Village of the Angels. The consolidated 4-panel ratings are 4.47 and 4.55 million viewers, respectively. This made Doctor Who the 21st most watched show in the UK last week, down a little bit from the week before. And the AI appreciation finally came out for last week's episode. It was 79, which is, I believe, a high for this season.
Yeah.
Actually, let me check that. Just to be certain. Because I have the ratings accumulator right here. So I can take a look-see.
I feel like it's definitely the closest to 80.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't
Okay.
be surprised because a lot of the currently watching public seems to really like the Weeping Angels.
Okay, so we have, and I'm actually popping a calculator, 76, 77, 75, 79, and what did I say this week's was? 77?
37 again, yeah.
Equals an average of 76.8 thus far this season. Which is just under 77. So episode 2 and episode 5 are hitting average. The only one to be above it is episode 4. And it wasn't just, I think, the Weeping Angels. I think it was just the fact that 90% of the episode felt like a classic, like RTD or Moffat.
It almost felt like a
story.
regular old-fashioned New Who episode, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just about.
And so that will take us to future episodes, because we have trailer images for the finale, The Vanquishers. Those of you who do not want to be spoiled by next week's episode might want to take a few minutes to not listen to us.
Turn away, you might be squeamish.
So anyone who's already watched the trailer, the article says that the Centauran commander is saying, "I offer you hope," And before I read that, or the Warriors of Santar offer you hope, and before reading that, I watched this trailer 3 times, and that is not what it sounded like. So I'm wondering if anybody else heard the word hope.
Give me a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like just hope pronounced really oddly because they're doing a Sontaran accent.
Yeah, thank you for talking over that. I couldn't hear it that time. Give me another moment here. Just give me a few seconds now that I've got it time stamped. It is hope. He says it hope.
Okay, after having read that and then re-listening, I guess I can hear it. But when I originally listened to it, I swear all I could hear was the Warriors of Santar offer you poop. And I rewound it because I was like, did he really just say that? And
No,
that's
I
all
could
I
hear
could
it
make
clearly.
out.
I
could
think you
hear
need
it
to
clearly,
Q-tip
but
your
I'm in
ears there,
really good.
Bill.
I have some really good headphones.
It
I
might be
was
that I couldn't
blasting the
imagine
volume.
a Santaran saying the word hope. Like it just didn't connect with my brain.
Oh, wow. This time the 2 trailers are actually different.
A little bit.
Peoples of the universe.
There's a couple of scenes in one trailer that's not in another one. Not in the other one. But yeah, that's interesting watch. So it looks like what we can glean is that Earth is about to be in the middle of a 5 or 6-way rumble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Santarans
We've
are
got
here. You got
Santarans,
the
Daleks,
Cybermen.
Cybermen.
Oh, yeah, there's
Yeah.
Daleks. I just saw them.
If we assume the Cybermen and Daleks are actually coming to Earth and they're not just trailer fodder. Oh, actually, let me see. The Daleks are looking at something in their view screen. We zoom in on that. That might be Asia they're looking at. So if so, then they would be invading Earth.
Well, do remember what was said in this episode that Earth was going to be the last
Yeah.
the last place in the universe.
Destroyed by the Flux, not by the.
Yes, but that will bring everybody to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That would force all the major players in the universe to come to Earth whether they want to or not.
Because you know what we haven't had enough of in the past 16 years?
Earth being the focus of everything.
Finales with Daleks in them.
That too, I guess.
If anything is
pretty much iconic with
if anything is
Doctor
underused in Doctor Who, it's Daleks.
I'm just glad they're not the big bad.
Just glad they're not the Super Sentai.
I would rather Daleks only be used when they're the big bad rather than use them constantly.
Well, in this case, for me, it makes sense. The Daleks are a superpower in the universe. They are, they have a large chunk of space. Apparently, so does the Cybermen. So do the Santarans, and they've been at war with the Rutans for, God knows how long. But apparently, since they've decided to retire the gas bags from Doctor Who, the Santarans are looking to be more of a galactic player. So you have all of these big superpowers whose space is getting displaced by the Flux, now looking at Earth as the big last refuge, and they're all going to arrive about the same time and try to play King of the Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get more Daleks versus Cybermen with the Santarans thrown in for good measure. Not to mention we've got the Earth and possibly the Weeping Angels all involved at the same time. Like I said, 5-way rumble.
Not to mention, we don't know if Swarm and Azure might end up being in the middle of that fight too, for whatever reason.
No, apparently they've moved on to their big goal.
Yeah.
Which is opening a fob watch.
Which is to take control of Division. Which we kind of saw them do at the end of the last episode. We will get to that in the summary, but it's kind of, important here. Now, again, we still don't know who these two are, and I believe we're going to find that out next episode.
Most likely.
I noticed, one of the things I did notice about this episode is that they referred to this universe as a separate entity from themselves. I think there's something like that's the problem with this universe. So that sounds like they're extra universal beings. Actually, it even shows it in the text in this. And now we will ensure that the Flux takes apart your entire universe.
And related to that, between some of the dialogue that, again, we'll cover later, and the fact of them opening the fob watch and stuff, I'm starting to wonder what are the odds that they're going to say that these two are the Doctor's biological parents.
Oh, I'm hoping not, because I will.
Yeah, that'd be a bit much.
I could
that would be the point where I'm only giving next
than,
season 3 episodes to correct this BS.
I could probably stomach that more than I could Bell and Vinder being the Doctor's parents, but
I already have enough issues with the fact that Tech Tayun was still alive.
Yeah.
And according to this, basically created Time Lord Society, which we know existed for 5 billion years. Meaning that Tech Tayun was 5 billion years old.
That's how long it takes to become truly corrupt.
Yes, but the only one that's supposed to be able to do... Actually, not even the Doctor was supposed to be able to do that.
Was supposed to be able to, but apparently they're breaking more and more rules as we go along. Which doesn't make sense because you had rules for a reason.
Suddenly all Time Lords are basically immortal? What the fuck? Again, this is shit we should talk about in the episode review.
Anyway,
Anyway, we see a bit more. We see the Ood, which is something else I'm going to talk about. Oh Jesus, I'm going to have rants.
Yeah, I have some issues with this guy too.
It's called continuity. You're using it and you're using it wrong.
Yep.
They're holding up the fob watch, as you mentioned, and yes, we do see it basically get in there, so we're probably going to start seeing some of the Doctor's past. And you don't know how much it hurts for me to say that.
Oh, and I'm just realizing now that the House of Lungbarrow comes out of the fob watch.
Shut the fuck up, Bill. Sit in the corner. You know what you just did.
Am I wrong?
Yes, you're wrong. I've already said that's the freaking Addams Family house. That's all I'm going to call it. The door's opening in this. I'm waiting for Lurch to come out and going, you rang. We see some more of Vinder and Diane. Apparently Diane can use a gun.
And they're in the woods, because it's cheap to film in the woods.
Despite the fact that in the image above that, she seems to be an amputee.
She is. She's
she
using
is.
the left
hand.
never
mind. Okay. Well, yep, the left hand is there. It's just covered in fog. Okay.
Yeah, she's not double amputee, Bill. She does not have a right hand, but she does have a left. and that's what's holding the gun.
Yeah, it's just covered in fog, so I didn't see it at first.
Of course, it is making me wonder why there is a forest inside of Passenger.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder what the hell a Passenger is. I want to find out.
Supposedly a prison, but that's
But-
all they really tell us.
Yeah, but it doesn't say how or anything. Maybe we'll learn a little more next episode.
Pocket universe, maybe?
Possibly. I mean, if this was made by corrupt Time Lords or something,
Right,
bigger on the inside.
for sure.
Yeah.
But how big? And then we get to see more of the Santaran occupation of Earth, take 2. We see Yaz, Dan, and the Professor, who is now a regular character. What the fuck?
Does that image in
Professor
between there? Sorry, go ahead.
I just realized the Professor is a companion's companion.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're getting into Inception levels of companion now.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's literally reached that level.
Am I
that
right
means
in
does that mean that the professor's a tin dog?
No.
Okay.
Am I right in thinking that it looks like Kate Stewart is in the magic tunnels?
It looks like it.
Yes, it does.
Looks like she somehow ends up in there too. What surprised me?
Apparently the tunnels are key to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
What surprised me? The Stewarts are in on everything, don't you know?
Mm-hmm. I think that might be where she announced that she's the leader of the resistance, as we saw in the trailer.
Right.
And if anybody is going to resist the Santarans, it's going to be Kate Stewart. I do love seeing her back, by the way.
Oh yeah. Also giving some exposition as to why Torchwood was getting pulled apart like it was. Cause some a-hole.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because interestingly enough, he chose the name Prentice. Prentice is short for apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
And who teaches an apprentice?
That's what I've been kind of wondering too.
Not a swarm.
Nope.
Not a swarm, a master. So I'm wondering if we're going to see an appearance by that, by the master as like almost a cameo in this episode or in the specials upcoming.
As a post-credit scene.
God damn it!
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm scrolling down to the episodes. We can see a sign. First of all, December 5th, far future, 2021. We've got the Santaran speech. And then we've got the Santaran invasion of Rio, I think.
Yeah.
And thank you, freaking Team 4-Star. All I can see is that statue and thinking, Jesus wants a hug.
As the aliens invade, yes. Look at that man statue they have in their city. Apparently he wants to be friendly.
Apparently the Santaran ships are embedding themselves in the ground. One of them on top of a building.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, speaking of the asshole themselves, there's the Grand Serpent.
Yep.
Apprentice. And if he is some kind of disciple of the master, well, that would be interesting, because much like the master in the '96 movie, he has a little snake in him.
Yep.
Apparently, yeah.
And yep, here's the proof.
Cybermen, the Daleks, and the Daleks all closing on Earth.
Yep. That's going to be a rumble. Now, here's an interesting thought. Okay, so we know that I was correct last week in my guess that unit got a hold of the Doctor's TARDIS from that village in 1967, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
That means it is still in storage somewhere on Earth.
Yes.
Now, the companions are in the tunnels.
Find a tunnel that leads them to the right time where they can find the TARDIS and get the hell out of there and find the Doctor.
Correct. It's a possibility. However, of course, they now have the freaking Santaran Dalek cyber invasion.
I wonder what are the odds Yaz has a key at this point.
Oh, I'm thinking that's actually pretty good.
The odds are very high in her favor on that one.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where they're getting tortured like this. It doesn't look like the TARDIS.
I was gonna say it almost looked like I was almost kind of like, wait, are they supposed to be tied up to like some sort of a TARDIS console? It's like, no, it's probably a Sontaran ship.
Yeah, I was gonna say
doesn't look like the Sontaran ship either.
The aesthetic looks very similar to the aesthetic of the scenes with the Sontarans we see higher up, which looks like maybe the Sontaran command ship or something.
Or maybe it's a cyber ship. Or a Dalek. No, it doesn't have the bumps.
And what it looked, just going off of these images, the cyber ship looks like it would be lit up blue and the Dalek ship lit up yellow, with the Sontaran ship potentially lit up that orangey red.
Yeah. If we go back up to Grand Serpent images and him with the Sontaran, it is lit up red.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is most likely a Sontaran ship if it's any enemy ship right now.
I'm curious what those things are behind him, especially because they look very much like the mock-ups that people use when they're drawing a cartoon version of COVID. I doubt that they're actually doing that, but it just seems an odd coincidence.
What? Which picture are you talking about?
The picture of Prentice with the spiky balls behind him.
Oh.
They look like diamonds.
I'm pretty sure those are just. I'm pretty sure those are just spiky balls. They're supposed to look warlike and evil. They might be they're supposed to look like mines or something. Because what else would the Sontarans have in their ship?
Oh, up there.
Comfy
okay.
chairs. Comfy chairs.
Well, they do have torture devices, it seems.
Yep. And they hook them up. Speaking of torture devices, apparently the Doctor's hooked up to one too. Little do they know, what they're actually going to do is Clockwork Orange her and make her watch the history of the universe while they play Beethoven's Ninth. And then we've got a brief shot of Carnavista and Belle, just to make sure that we know they're still part of the plot.
And a dissolving hand.
And that shot is literally where they're standing when we last see them in the episode we're reviewing today.
So what? They get like 3 seconds of screen time. And yeah, a hand disintegrates. They say who hands. I happen to know because it was in the damn trailer. It's the Doctor's hand. In like a vision she's having.
Which makes sense because it's the same black, white, gray as all of those. That vision of the Addams family.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Why that would be happening and she's not dying.
Yeah, the idea that it's symbolic or like a potential future or something is certainly possible.
So here's the question: how many plot lines are they going to be able to tie up in this one episode?
Yeah.
Because so far they've not managed to tie up anything except the angels.
I mean, we thought they'd tied up the Sontarans, but they're coming back, so.
Yep. So.
Yep. Which I know I saw a headline. There was some sort of interview, which, you know, I saw before the episode had aired in the States. So it's kind of a spoiler, but the Centauran commander was supposed to have died and not come back. And they changed the plot or something to bring him back. But I didn't read the article because I hadn't watched the episode yet.
You know, what probably happened was the fact that they started filming it. And the Chibnall went, these costumes are actually pretty damn good. Be ashamed to just waste it on this one episode.
We got enough
the
extra
scripts are coming
Cybermen and Daleks too, so we might as well just bring back the Centaurans and make it a big three-way
they
fight.
might have wanted a sort of, I don't know if charismatic is the right word to use for Centaurans. Theatrical, stage present figures to be the figureheads of the invasion / Battle of Five Armies, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's probably a case of Chibnall going, these guys are too good to waste. Let's write them back in. Give me a second. I'm going to revise the last couple of episodes. All right, so moving on. Sheridan Smith, who voices Lucy Miller for Big Finish, is lucky to be alive right now after having a terrible car accident. Apparently, she was driving on a narrow road in poor conditions, and she swerved off the road and crashed into a tree. I know how that feels, but apparently she was going much faster than I was.
Yeah.
When I had my accident, and I broke some ribs.
No one was hurt. That is kind of shocking looking at the wreckage.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, my car was totaled, but it was still in one piece. It just dented the engine.
I don't know if that
This
says
looks
anything
like
about
it's
the construction of a Range Rover, that maybe it's, I don't know if it's a particularly safe vehicle. Maybe it is.
Mine was a Ford, so it was pretty tough.
Ford,
This,
aka
if you
found on
look,
road dead.
yeah, shut up. My family actually has a lot of good luck with Fords. I just chose a rear-wheel drive Ford in a winter zone because I was an idiot. But yes, you can see pieces strewn all over the place. And I'm like, I think the thing is that the interior safety systems on a Range Rover are actually pretty good. Which might be why she survived without major injuries.
Like how the sixth or so photo of the wreckage has a caption saying a neighbor described it as a really bad crash. I think by this point in the article, we've gotten the impression that it was a really bad crash.
And with no major injuries, it doesn't mean she didn't break bones. Cracked a couple of ribs, something like that. We don't know, but
just that we know for sure that whatever she endured in that crash is not thankfully life-threatening for her.
One line literally says no one was hurt in the incident, which that's what really surprises me. Because you would expect something, and of course that's not to say there wasn't like whiplash or something that is difficult to detect on the day of.
I don't see where it says no one was hurt.
It's the second photo caption.
That's very weird because I'm reading the actual article and it says no one was seriously injured. And then it says she's lucky to be alive. It could have been so much worse. It's a miracle that she had not been more hurt.
Yeah. So maybe they fucked up with that particular caption then.
I think so.
This is why you read articles, not captions.
That's why you read the whole thing and take it in mass. So she's injured, but not badly. Which again is probably the Range Rover's safety system. They have a very good interior cage, and of course, airbags, seat belts, the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
The only thing more it could have is the laser restraining system from Knight Rider, and that's fictional. Or the inertial absorbing brakes from Bessie in Doctor Who. Nope. Sorry. We haven't invented those yet.
Yep.
Okay, so moving along. Very recently, a British politician, MP party Nick Fletcher from the Conservatives, has blamed female replacements for characters such as the Doctor in Doctor Who and the rumored recast for upcoming James Bond. Has basically blames them for leaving men with criminals as role models and thus basically becoming delinquents. Really? Really?
Yeah, because there's really not enough heroes that are men that they can watch, look up to as role models. There's no men in movies or on TV.
And I guess suddenly, as I've seen people joke before, it's like, oh yeah, remember when Jodie Whittaker got cast as the Doctor and everything before it just vanished from existence?
There's
It's like,
totally
oh, no, you
no
can't just go back and watch
Spider-Man,
everything
Iron
else.
Man, Incredible Hulk, or even Batman or Superman for that matter. No, they totally aren't around. Totally no heroes to look up to.
I understand where he's coming from. He is completely out of line. But I understand the mentality that's getting there, and that's the fact that these days things seem very black and white with programming. But that's not the only thing to blame. There's
there's
heroic
something to be
characters
said
left.
a little bit about that, but that's definitely not the main problem here.
No. And again, this is because I'm a firm believer in moderation. I'm a Taoist by nature. For everything except for when it comes to eating and exercise, which I like to do all the eating and none of the exercise.
Yeah, well, like when I found out about this, I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing the Peter Davison thing again, are we? Because he also was like, when she got cast, was like, oh, boys lost a role model. And like Colin Baker had to basically tell him to shut up.
The thing is, I don't understand the mentality behind that. A female doctor had always been debated since pretty much the 60s. And it was originally Sidney Newman that came up with the idea. Although I think that was in the 80s. I think when Tom Baker was about to step down, he was like, yeah, why don't we cast the next one as a woman just to make it a difference and to give it a chance, for all this. And so when they announced Jodie Whittaker was going to be the next Doctor, I was fine with it. I was worried because of what I was hearing that was going else in development. The fact that Chris Chibnall was choosing to choose a female doctor with a completely novice writing staff.
And we were right to worry about that part.
Yep. And I called it. Jodie herself is fine as the Doctor. I actually look forward to seeing if Jodie will come back for the 50th anniversary, or not 50, 60th anniversary, written by Russell T.
Who would probably write her much more competently.
Who would probably write her a lot better than Chibnall.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I'd like to see what he would do with Matt Smith if Matt Smith came back. Yep. Yeah.
Give her and Matt Smith a chance to shine in their characters. The only reason I'm not adding Capaldi in this, because Capaldi had enough sense to occasionally knock Stephen Moffat's head together and say, hey, no, I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah, Capaldi oftentimes had enough sense to put his foot down when he really needed to. Still didn't save everything, but he saved his character at least.
Yep. I'm also looking forward to seeing Capaldi come back because I
Eyebrows.
thoroughly enjoyed the last couple of seasons of Capaldi. Especially, like, I think I mentioned this last week, or if not, I mentioned it but I've been rewatching old, like, Capaldi episodes and going, wow, I didn't remember these being that good.
I'm sure that one middle season 3-parter is still gonna be but the rest
That
of it
wasn't one
is
of the ones
usually
I
pretty
watched.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't one of the ones I was watching. I was watching season 9, which, with the exception of the one episode written by, oh, what's his name? Moffat's little sidekick.
Gaddis.
Gaddis, thank you. I completely forgot his name. Repressed him entirely. The one Gaddis episode, the rest of the season rocks. Some people don't like the Hell Bent as much, but the rest of it, beautiful. And 8 had its gems and its bad episodes. It was hit or miss. But 9 and some parts of 10 were really good.
Mm-hmm.
The finale for 10 was just amazing. The one with the Cybermen and the on the ship falling into the black hole.
Yeah.
Although funny enough,
Beautiful.
that's almost the opposite of the scene with RTD thing, because this was RTD's master getting the chance to be written by Moffat and being liked better.
Yeah, that's the one thing I did not like how they did how Sims did the master in retrospect, because like I think I've mentioned that before. He's just too jokery.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Whereas it was a lot more subdued in
A lot more
Series 10.
cerebral. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could just imagine RTD standing there behind the camera. No, John, hammier.
But so yeah, even by the way, back on course. Even the other MPs did not take Fletcher's comments seriously. It was just like a way out of a left field thing. And where I get some of where he's coming from, because it has been a great movement to make strong female characters the leads in a lot of things. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
It
sometimes
didn't
it's
work in
actually purposely
Ghostbusters.
done, and it's actually really well done, and other times it's ham-fisted.
Ghostbusters didn't work. It could have worked. It didn't work. I'm not saying it's because they tried it with women. It's because the writing has to be there.
Yeah, the writer-director needed to not be the choice they made.
Yep.
On that one.
Because the reason that a lot of these shows are classics are because they had good writing. And I swear to God, I don't know what they're teaching people in writing school these days, but I swear to God, the average quality of writing has gone down in the last 20 years.
That somehow doesn't surprise me.
Even, you take a look at like the MCU, they're pretty much cranking them out by formula these days.
I do know a lot of it, just from people who have done a lot more analysis of the industry than me. A lot of it comes down to what the executives and what the producers push as this is what is the most efficient way to make more money with less effort, which often leads to writers and other creatives being kind of dissatisfied by the whole process.
And
Or shut out the
marginalized.
door entirely for a bunch of reality TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's what's happening here. Doctor Who, Ghostbusters, Star Wars all could have been brilliant. When I mean Star Wars, I mean the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Had they been written competently, had they been written by somebody that had a flair for what the originals did, that had some of that same magic. Because that's what a lot of these sequels miss, is the magic that made the originals the originals.
To be fair, the
Instead,
other difference is the originals were done by people who they were passion projects for, rather than just trying
Yes.
to make money.
They weren't looking for how can we capture lightning twice in the same bottle. They were, I have this idea that I really want to make work.
yep.
Yeah.
And that's why, on a quick side tangent, Marvel announced that they were restarting the old '90s X-Men the animated series with the same cast, a lot of the same, this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, it ain't gonna be the same.
It really depends
They're
on
gonna
who they
ruin
got
it.
in control of that thing, because if they're not in it for the old feel of the '90s cartoon, then it's still gonna flop.
Yep,
I
it's
mean,
gonna.
I imagine it's like a lot of these shows where it's going to be made by fans of the original show, and I think as Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, Dragon Ball, they've all showed us the flaws with if and I'm that's this is all of course like my speculation. They haven't said that I know of, but we've seen the flaws of taking fans of a show who don't necessarily understand how the original that they love worked, and then basically putting their fan fiction onto the screen. So I hope that's not necessarily what they're doing, but I wouldn't be
Well,
shocked if it is.
Doctor Who managed to catch lightning in a bottle twice. You had 1963 and you had
Mm-hmm.
2005.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think the combination was brilliant acting and brilliant writing combined together.
Will they be able to do a third
Um,
time now? In the next couple of
no,
years, we'll see.
that's not the question. But that's the thing that the others lack, is the brilliant writing isn't there.
Right.
Because and you need to have that brilliant writing and yes, it has to be, at least in some way, a passion, that the people writing it have to have a passion for what they're doing.
Which
J.J.
again, to bring
Abrams'
it back to Doctor
2009.
Who.
Oh, I was going to say J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek is a weird fart in that. We know it wasn't a passion project for J.J. Abrams. He's a Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he managed to make it, but then he tried to do it twice and it blew up in his face.
Yeah.
And then of course he did try to do it, even though it was a passion for him to write Star Wars. And that kind of blew up in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
honestly,
and
handing
with,
him the
like,
first movie was a good idea, but they needed somebody else who could pull out the rest of those stories really well for the next two, and they didn't.
Well, the thing is, they needed somebody to write the entire series, one main
They
writer.
should have, yeah, and he wouldn't have been a person to pick for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Director, maybe, writer, no.
Yeah, like, as far as that goes with Doctor Who, I mean, Chibnall's been, like, with Chibnall, it was very clear that fan as he is of Doctor Who, they basically had to beg him to to do it because he wasn't really passionate about it. So, it shows. Like, he's,
Yep.
He
He instead chose it to be a vehicle for social messaging, and he didn't put all of his, effort into writing these stories, and as more as he did telling a message, and unfortunately that shows because the writing kind of fell through. Even his idea of pools seemed to have made it, basically turned it into a TV show by committee, which I've learned never do anything by committee.
And I know that's also the one worry about RTD coming back, is whether he has a renewed passion for it or not. You'd hope so, but you never really know. So
anyway, we've
we'll
spent
see.
a lot of time on the news.
this one.
Yeah, we have.
So we're going to move to Geek Talk, and you're going to have to make it as fast as you can.
5-minute timer on everything.
5-minute timer on Geek Talk. There's 3 things to go through.
All right.
That gives us 15 minutes. That should give us time to close out on schedule.
Starting on Black Widow. Go.
All right, so yes, I recently watched Black Widow. I'm not going to spend too long on it because I know Alex reviewed it when it came out, I believe. I will say I liked it. I had been expecting it to have more loose ends than it did from the way people talked about it, but I thought it was pretty competent. It was basically a movie with 2 leads. You could argue which had the more. Yelena definitely probably had more screen time. You saw more of her life, but that was because Natasha was already more established through other movies. Really, I think the biggest flaw in this movie is that it wasn't released in 2016. Because it's a direct sequel to Civil War, and it really fits in that slot, and it fits well in that slot. And uh, there's no good reason for it to really exist this late other than introducing Elena for future projects. And of course, if they had aired it in 2016, the post-credit scene would have made more sense at the end of Endgame. But ultimately, that actually would have been better because of the way other things got delayed. So I would say if I were rewatching the MCU or if I were advising a new person watching it the first time, I would say watch Civil War, then Black Widow, and then continue on in release order. But ultimately, I liked it. I didn't have any serious complaints. It might not have been my favorite top 5 MCU movies, but I did not have any major criticisms worth talking about it. It's pretty much what you would expect from a movie about 2 people who were involved in the Black Widow program. A lot of family themes that I think are done fairly well, and again fit in with that post Civil War era, post Marvel Civil War, of course. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it.
Was it really necessary, though?
I think it expands on a character that was relatively neglected compared to the other Avengers. And of course, we don't know the role Yelena is going to play in the future. I also think it makes Endgame a little more. I think if it had been aired before Endgame, people might have complained less about Endgame. Because you see, you see Natasha go through this arc, and she becomes a lot, less bitter, a little bit more satisfied. She's wrapped something up. She has fewer loose ends, and I think that puts her in a lot better place for the sacrifice she makes in Endgame, compared to, just kind of not really having any arc and then sacrificing herself so that her friend can be with his family.
Fair enough.
That's another reason why airing it after Endgame was a bad idea.
Like
right,
airing
good?
it, putting it between would have made sense so long as they set it like between Infinity War and Endgame. But yeah.
But yeah, that's it for Black Widow.
All right. So next up, Jason Goes to Hell, the last Friday. Air quotes.
Yeah, and you guys, since you 2 are both horror movie buffs, you tend to lose track of time on this. So try to keep an eye on it, Matt, will you?
Yeah, I'll try to.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, Jason Goes to Hell. Like I knew that this was the one that like one of those ones that's just kind of off the rails with this franchise, but like it's funny because I think it's better than Jason Takes Manhattan. But as I was watching it, I'm realizing, okay, part 7 is better than this, but it's definitely less boring than part 8. And it really is like, I almost feel like this would be a better movie if it had nothing to do with Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Like if it was just its own thing. Because like suddenly we've got to get a Voorhees house and like relatives that we like had not been established at all before. And it's like, are we just turning this into Halloween somewhat? Because that's what it feels like. And just the whole like sudden retcon of no, Jason's actually this weird entity thing that can possess people, and like, what are we doing? But yeah, that it's a mess, but it's an entertaining. I'll give it that.
It's
Like, I
an
didn't
interesting
feel
mess.
I wasn't.
Yes, I'll give it
Yeah,
that much.
like it's a train wreck in that, like, as bad as it is, you can't look away. But like, so I'll give it that much. But yeah, it's very like, and the bounty hunter character is pretty fun. But yeah, like for the most part, it is just kind of like, what is it with these franchises just going off the rails like this? It's like a habit they
Well,
all had.
actually,
But
I
anyway.
know some of the behind the scenes on this one and why it turned out like this.
Mm.
If you want to know really quickly. The
I
basic
think I
summary
watched
I've
the
been given
part,
is that New Line took over at this point, and
yeah.
that Sean Cunningham brought it to New Line after he got it out of the grips of Paramount. And basically, he had no idea what the heck was going on with the franchise because it ran for like 6 movies without him really paying attention to it, and he just went, "I don't even like the hockey mask. Just get rid of everything."
Yeah. Yeah, and like essentially this was made to keep the character relevant while they tried to work out Freddy versus Jason.
Basically, yes. The same
Seemingly.
with Jason
Jason
X.
X, yeah. But yeah, that's really all I've got for that one. It's like it's worth checking out if you're morbidly curious. Otherwise, you can skip it. And
Going on to
yeah, I also
remake?
saw.
Or
Yep. The reboot.
The
It's funny because like the first 20 minutes of this is like threw me off because like it's basically a very long cold open. Because like the first movie is basically skipped over entirely except for the decapitation of Pamela Voorhees, and
yeah, which
then
they recreated at the very beginning of this movie.
yeah, and then like very briefly go through what you could argue is the equivalent of the second movie.
Yeah,
And then we
it
skip
has
ahead to the
second movie
fourth
elements for
movie.
like about 5 to 10 minutes, and then as soon as the sack head is ripped off, it immediately goes into like its own version of 3.
Yeah, well, 3 and 4, given that there's a guy looking for his dead sister. Well, who he thinks might be his dead sister. But she's not.
Suppose, yeah, a little
But
bit.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a
like,
little bit of that too, I suppose.
yeah, because like essentially, like even what I read, like when I watched a thing about this, it was like, as basically the director or the writers or whatever had said that they basically wanted to do sort of a greatest hits of the first 4, and given how like similar the first 4 are, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Just do kind of a greatest hits of elements of those movies.
And modernize it a little bit and give it its own little twist to start it off
Yeah.
if it goes anywhere. Which I'm actually sad
Yeah.
it didn't go anywhere because I generally like this one. I don't get the hate for it so much.
I mean, yeah, like I like for all the problems I have with the fact that all the most of the characters are basically disposable and there to die, which always bugs me.
Yeah, it's what I
with
come to
these
expect from Friday.
franchises. Yeah.
It's not Shakespeare.
But the Jason in this is
Oh yeah,
great.
mm-hmm.
Like, he's absolutely like the actors sell this Jason as being fucking terrifying. And
because he is a horrible giant brute of a thing, but he's also, you see a lot of things he's got going on and you realize he's not an idiot either.
Yeah. Like, he's very, the way I described it when the first thing that came to mind is essentially he's a hunter-gatherer Jason.
Yeah.
Because like I think I've even seen it worded as him being a survivalist. Like, he's been living out in these woods his whole life essentially at this point. He knows his way around this place.
In those places that most people will never find.
Yeah. And the whole tunnels aspect and shit is like, well, there you go. There's a way around the teleportation thing.
Yeah,
he doesn't teleport.
He doesn't teleport. He just goes into his tunnel and has a shortcut to where you're running to.
Yeah. And it was funny because like a lot of I liked how the friend groups in this were a lot more like actually really sold that they gave a shit about each other, aside from like that one asshole.
Except for the one
Whose house
asshole,
it
which
is.
I
Yeah.
love how he ends.
Like, yeah, everyone else is basically like, if they leave someone to die, it's a smart decision. Because like, but otherwise, it's like, you know, when they realize shit's down, the like token black guy is like, hey, I want to go check on my friend and make sure he's fine. And so they actually kind of give a shit about each other. It's like, well, that's nice, because in most other movies in this franchise, that doesn't really come across as well, either just because the acting's not there or
Or they just
whatever.
don't, to be honest, most often than not, then they just don't give those characters a chance to even breathe like that.
No, but generally, I would definitely say this is better than a lot of the sequels. I would not necessarily say it's better. I would say that my favorite is probably still, honestly, yeah, I probably would say that my favorite is part 6. But this is up there.
Yeah, it's not quite 6, but it's definitely close. It's also a much darker movie too, which does help it as a reboot.
Yeah, generally Jason in this being like very no nonsense, just going for it, is very fun.
Final thoughts.
That's
by the way,
about
final
all.
thoughts. You got half a minute.
Yeah.
I was just about to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say this is worth checking out. I mean, it's very like, a lot of the characters are very disposable, but the ones that actually like you're supposed to give a shit about are
You
very
actually
nice. And
genuinely
there was
will
at
give a
least,
shit about, because it's actually really pretty well written for what it is.
yeah, it's pretty good. I'd say it's worth checking out.
Alrighty.
Jesus, Matt, let the man have his final thoughts.
I'm sorry, I
Alright.
don't get to see many people that actually like this one. I genuinely don't. A lot of people hate it just for the fact that he runs.
Oh, now you're going over 5 minutes. On
I've
to the
stopped.
summary.
Yep, summary, which actually I believe is me.
Yep.
So I bring this
Give
up.
me just a moment. Tab, open tab. Come on, tab, open. Don't you hate it when the thing just won't agree with you? Okay. Wow, that opened in a second. Nice of having a fast computer. All right, Matt, tell me when you're ready.
All right.
All right. Start in 3, 2, 1. Summarize.
All right. So basically, we start off the episode immediately with the Doctor amongst the angels. She seems to waking up from her being angelified and starts questioning what's going on, if she has turned into them somehow or something. But they basically tell her really shorthand before she's pulled out of it that she's being transported, not actually turned. And that a few moments later is when she wakes up and is eye to eye with an Ood out of nowhere. A bit of looking around and taking in her current predicament, she realizes she's with the strange woman she had a vision of before. And she starts to have a back and forth with her. As this is going on, I should very quickly summarize some of the other side stories going on. In particular, the main companions are on a chase to find out, due to a secret message left on Yaz, that the Doctor knows that there's some people out on Earth who should know where to seek out ways to try and get involved again with the Doctor and try and catch up with her and possibly find a way to undo all the Flux stuff before it happens again in their time. And they go basically hitchhiking across the world and eventually come across the idea to somehow contact the dog people by basically going, hey, we're here. But just as soon as that message gets through to the dog people, who don't have type technology, so they're like, what the hell are we supposed to do? They are being attacked by an unknown enemy, at least at the moment. Flashing back quickly, while this is also going on, Belle was pulled from her attempt to try and save other people, where the Skull people had been taking their prisoners to, and is pulled in by the dog people. At the same time she's being pulled away is when, I can't think of his name now. Belle's husband.
Bender.
Is the exact same time Bender shows up at the place she was trying to get to, and in short context, notices the skull people, manages to pull away from a collection of people who seem to be hypnotized near these little pylons, I guess, and then are instantly dissolved to make more time energy for Swarm and Azure. Swarm and Azure then find him a few moments later and put him inside of one of the robot things, to which case he bumps into Dan's friend and they go off on whatever adventure they're going to do inside of there. I don't know what they plan to do with that yet, but that's to be next episode, I guess. Going back to the companions, as they're trying to find help, they're on a, I believe, like a train or something. They suddenly come in no, it was the boat. They're on the boat again, and that's when they come in contact with the man from the mines, who's been digging out tunnels. They realize that they need to follow this guy as they bump into him again, and they head back to Britain, find out where these tunnels were, and apparently they're abandoned, only to find the guy lurking around in there again. So, making contact with him, they realize that the entire place is full of doorways at different times, and they're trying to figure out what's going on when they are being attacked. Come to find out, the Centaurans are showing up and basically busting down the doors, both on the spaceships that are above Earth in modern time, but also snapping their way into the multi-time doorway tunnels and starting to do some sort of Earth invasion again. While this is all going on, back with the Doctor, she finds out she's on a ship for the Division, and that the leader of the Division is her adoptive mother, Tecteun, and that she's been running everything, and she's also been protecting the Doctor's memories. She manages to convince Ood that she can help his people if she can at least get a map to see what's going on and figure out how they're trying to compress the universe, because apparently they're planning to compress the universe, punch it in a hole into another universe, and bring the entirety of the universe with them, and somehow remake it again. Because that makes a lot of sense and totally great to kill everything. Basically, Tecteun has says she doesn't trust the Doctor because the Doctor has basically backstabbed her multiple times and tried to undo everything that she and the Division have been trying to do and trying to manipulate in the shadows for millennia now. And as this is all coming to an head, that's exactly when the Centaurans invade is exactly when Swarm and Azure apparently find enough energy to come follow after the Doctor, punch their way into the Division, and without much of a second thought, instantly dissolve Tecteun. And that's pretty much where we are left.
And you did that in 5 minutes, 2.5 seconds, but you forgot a plot line.
Which one?
The Grand Serpent.
Oh, the Grand Serpent. We don't really get to see too much of him other than the fact that he's apparently manipulating Unit the entire time, and has some sort of ties to the Centaurans when they start their new invasion.
Yeah, also apparently the assassination attempt on the companions.
Is there any confirmation of that?
Yes, the serpent on the hand of the assassin.
Oh, right, you're right. I think we saw that before we see him. That's why I forgot.
Yep, you see that before we see them, and we also see it on the hand of the person he's giving orders to at before the Centauran invasion.
I didn't catch that. I was wondering why they obeyed him. I thought maybe they were hypnotized or blackmailed.
Apparently they're all his followers for whatever reason, but that means he's been basically playing shit throughout time.
Yep.
Which again leads to my theory. The Apprentice.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyway. But hey, that's just a theory.
A fan theory. Anyway. Thanks for watching.
No. Alright, so what did we like about this episode? And Bill, you are first.
I am first. So
I am Groot.
I'm going to say I liked Yaz in this episode. I mean, in some ways she could be accused of being a little Dr. Mimicky, which I think she kind of was, but she definitely had her own personality. This was her first time really leading an expedition as compared to just kind of getting lost and being on her own and, with a random person who has less experience. So, I mean, she was with two random people with less experience, but she was really leading the expedition. She had her own flavor of snark in addition to Doctorisms. So, it was a bit of her own personality having a chance to shine through, which I think is relatively rare because we've had a lot of opportunities for her just not to have the chance to, or at least not written to show any actual personality. So I felt like this was a bit
having a
refreshing.
personality. The universe is coming to an end.
Or I think the only time she really snarked before was with Ryan, her schoolmate.
An old schoolmate, yeah.
She joked with Graham, but never like in an interesting way, if that makes sense. Like, he always drove the humor. Her personality never really shone through when she was with Graham.
That being said, there's a couple of times, like in particular when they're in that little temple thing going up and down, that the other two guys were really kind of being totally incompetent.
All right.
Yeah. And in that, it really felt like she was the Doctor, and like completely mimicking the Doctor in scenes like that. Even to the way she said "hiya."
All right, Matt, how about you?
General thing overall that I liked. I'm glad that the freaking threads slowly and painfully, but seemingly are starting to come together. But we'll see how the rest of it ends in the next episode. But it's finally we're getting some answers here. Finally, something that feels like it's getting done a little bit.
Yeah, let's see if we actually wind up with a tapestry by the end of this, or a middle school attempt to knit a scarf. All right, Alex, how about you?
I am going to go with I like the fact that we finally have an on-screen explanation for what was going on with Unit this whole time.
Yes.
Because it's funny because as I'm watching this the first time through, I'm like, wow, that's some long game shit, Chibnall. You've been fucking waiting to do this for a while, haven't you? Like, because it's written off unceremoniously, seemingly, and apparently he I don't even remember it being offhandedly mentioned in Resolution, but apparently it goes back that far that it was mentioned that Unit essentially was made ineffectual. But now we have
a one sentence dialogue.
Yeah, I think at the time we kind of chalked it up to, this is his Brexit reference.
I think that was Spyfall more where that came up. But yeah, it was it was nice to actually see okay, it's just being generally manipulated through all this to make it ineffectual for this invasion to happen. And it's like, that's honestly a really interesting side. It's like, I feel like that would be the sort of double-edged sword nature of it, is that it'd almost be better for its own season plot, but oh well.
Maybe, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to tack onto that. I do think it's nice to see Unit, and in particular Kate Stewart, back again. It makes it a lot more enjoyable to know what's going on with that. And Unit is, thanks to the Pertwee era, inexorably tied with Doctor Who. The fact that it had just been summarily dismissed, like you said, was always kind of a, hey, no, you can't do that. That's a Doctor Who staple. And I always was slightly annoyed that during the Russell era, Unit was basically turned into a bunch of buffoons, so that they would be second fiddle to Torchwood. And then
it would be funny if we found out that was all Prentice's fault.
I mean,
then, of course,
retroactively, you could make that work.
yeah. And then, of course, we got to see the second, renaissance of Unit during the Moffat era. One of the few things of Moffat I agreed with was bringing them back with Kate Stewart and them, because it was nice to see Unit an effectual group again. And then they just, Chibnall just waved a hand and made them go away, and I'm like, no! But now we see that there is a reason, and now we get to see more of these characters. And hey, we might even get to see a cameo by Osgood, too. That'd be cool.
She at least got a very quick mention this episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though we're pretty sure she's a Zygon.
Maybe.
Anyway. So what did we not like about this episode? And I have droves. So, Bill.
So I am going to say there was just too many plots. We had the Doctor plot, we had the companion plot, we had the Unit plot, we had the Bell plot, and actually we even had the Vendor plot, and it's just, this is, there's been similar things throughout this, but I feel especially here, because you've had, you have all of these various protagonists that are all split up. And it's even more pronounced here because the Doctor is not once with the companions. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also have this whole Grand Serpent plot, which he wasn't a character we really had a connection to. It's bad enough when, there's a whole swarm plot and it's, we don't really see him interact with the main characters.
Yeah.
But I feel like this whole Grand Serpent plot, not saying that's what would have had to be cut, but it just adds one thing too many to kind of an overdone soup at this point. There's too many things going on at once. I think it could have been segmented out a bit more if they had to add an extra subplot in at this stage.
So what you're saying at this point is you're singing too many cooks.
Or too many ingredients at least, yeah.
All right.
It's like when a kid is like, oh yeah, put all of the toppings, on my ice cream or on my pizza. Never mind, which ones actually go well together. Just pile it all on there because that's what seems like the good thing to do until you actually look at it and you're like, oh, that's too much stuff that doesn't go together.
It's a monstrosity.
No, I always ate that as a kid.
Well, pardon me for being a normal pepperoni kid.
No, I was talking about toppings on ice cream.
Oh, the ice cream? Yeah, as long as it wasn't caramel.
Oh no, I had caramel
Oreos,
too.
Little sprinkles, a little bit of chocolate chips,
Carmy,
a little bit of hot chocolate syrup.
The nut. Yeah. Anyway.
Anywho, yeah. My least favorite thing. Oh lordy, here we go. What's the one off the checklist? I hate the Division. I hate the whole Division plotline. This is really annoying and really... Ugh.
I can't wholly agree with you. The Division plotline would have worked.
It would work but it's so tied to the undermining of a lot of the franchise. It's just... Every time we get a good moment, it's immediately undermined by another stupid thing. And it's like, no. Because I'll even let the whole Tech Team is alive and she's part of the Division thing slide. But the fact that it's also undermining the history of the Doctor itself is just, And I'm worried where they're going to go with that because it looks like it could go further. We're going to have to brace ourselves for next week and see where they go.
I wonder how different it would be if instead of introducing the whole Joe Martin plot and the Timeless Child plot, what they did instead was they took a current actor who could pass for a younger version of William Hartnell, and that was the Division Doctor.
I would still have a lot of questions.
I really
No.
feel like it would have made the most sense to just do a season 6B thing.
No, as a young version of a Hartnell Doctor, I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, at least it
Because
would be a lot
that-
less undermining going on.
Because that would still stick with the original 13
The original, the
Lives
first Doctor
Doctor,
being the 1st Doctor, yeah.
and it would give him a reason for why the Doctor left Gallifrey.
That's true,
True,
too.
true.
Because we
So
never really gave
that
the official reason.
that adds without conflicting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The problem is that this all conflicts so much. It literally even conflicts of how Time Lords work. All this extra stuff that's been added on with the division.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. We've been told stuff for decades on how the Time Lords work, 13 lives, non-interference until the CIA was built, and then they basically just used the Doctor as a rogue agent. And that, certain things were true, and now Chibnall has basically gone, nope, 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 this is the way it's been. Nope, now everything's the division. It's section 31 of the Time Lords. And those of you that don't know, Section 31 is a rogue agency of the Federation in Star Trek that does
Black Ops, essentially.
Black Ops, yes.
Which for some reason has extremely long-lived dog people who are somehow older than dogs.
Yeah, none of this makes sense from a timeline standpoint. Which means nobody's sitting down and thinking continuity and has, smacked Chibnall upside the head and gone, hey, you realize this makes this character 5 billion years old. Why? Because Time Lord Society has been around for 5 billion years. This isn't just a few hundred years thing. No. The Doctor was not supposed to have originally been around at the dawn of this. Shut up, Cartnell, sit down. The Doctor is supposed to be somebody from recent Time Lord history who basically said at some point, fuck this, and left Gallifrey to go on their own. And it's not the only one. You've got the Master, the Ronnie. Apparently, a lot of the Doctor's class contemporaries decided to go off into space and become evil.
Whereas the Doctor's been the only one that's actively been working on the other end.
But they're all from, relatively speaking, the last 1,000 years or so. Whereas, Time Lord Society has been around since the Dark Times, which was the dawn of fucking time.
Where they're dealing with a lot of things, including but not limited to the vampires.
Nobody's explained this to Chibnall, that you're now suddenly making these characters show up, you're making them billions of years old. Which is a lot older than the Doctor was ever supposed to be.
Yeah, most of the Doctors maybe pushing 1,000.
Closer to pushing 2,000 now.
He was 2,000. He said he was. Yeah, he was two. He spent, I think, over 1,000 years on Trenzalore.
Yep.
So he's supposed to be over 2,000 when he regenerated.
So he's around 2,500. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's around 2,500 now.
Oh, still, that's still a fairly substantial difference between a couple thousand and billions.
Yeah. They've really suddenly fucked up shit. And that's my main issue with the Chibnall bit. Now, well, we still have Alex to go, so go ahead.
Yep. Honestly, I'm going to sort of lump into a division thing, but just the fact that they decided that they had to make it like this all-encompassing, like the fact that we just get it flatly stated finally that they are basically I guess for lack of a better comparison, the Illuminati kind of a organization. Like it's like, oh yes, we have people reaching everywhere, or like Spectre
We
from
got
James
everywhere. We
Bond or
have
something.
manipulated everything since the dawn of
Yeah.
time. Yada yada.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
The
like
CIA
if
to the 100th degree.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like if it had been like just because I can be fine with the the sense of them actually fucking with stuff and like going against the non-interference because the Time Lords are hypocrites. Of course they would do that.
Yeah.
Because especially with
They
the
definitely have
attitude she
swings with that.
has, especially with the attitude she has of, oh, you know, some of these idiots needed a nudge and all that. It's like fine, but it's just like the fact that it had to be like all encompassing of the universe. It's like, did we really have to make it on that scale? Like them just being essentially, um, like one above the CIA, I guess. Of like these are just completely off the record, no one really knows they exist, sort of thing. That'd be like, okay, fine. But the fact that it had to be this fucking all encompassing thing is just like,
They had to
no.
be Hydra.
Yeah. Is like that's a bit much.
Yeah. All right. Is that it?
All right. So no, I still have my bitch.
Well, I was going to say, if you're done, then Randy's turn.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, first of all, the Division, big mistake. With how they're doing it, with basically, my major bitch is continuity. Now this has always been one of my bitches, but at this point, you know, basic continuity, not specific continuity. You know, we've been shoved all this down there that the Time Lords' lives is finite.
Mm-hmm.
5 billion years is not finite.
Oh, hell no. That's
We
well beyond where she should be living.
we have seen that Time Lords age, they die.
I mean, even with Rassilon, the implication is that is that he died and was brought back in a new
to
body or some
function
shit.
to
Yeah.
function in this war. Yes,
Yeah.
they pulled
Which,
him
if
out
they
of
made that
time.
explicitly clear with Tech Tayun as well, that would probably be a bit more viable.
But
They
that's not what
haven't.
they went with. They went with
Yeah.
she's just been
Yeah,
there
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Although I do wonder, and the conversion plates thing might counter this because I'm not entirely sure how much detail they went into that. If she's existing outside the universe, she could potentially be outside of time and not aging. But
I declare bullshit.
the bubble
Yeah,
she exists in seems like it follows the regular laws of physics, which would include time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Although
I call
there's
bullshit.
although there's the whole plot that we don't really understand and seems to be bullshit about time being a sentient force that they're controlling, which might be the explanation, but if so, it's a
Again, even more
bad
bullshit.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
if that's the explanation, it's a bad one. This episode is poorly written, type bad explanation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um.
I say that about most of this as far as the way they've been
Yeah.
dealing with time.
Mm-hmm.
But even the little bits too, like, why is there an Ood serving the Division?
More importantly, why does that Ood have a ball?
Yeah, weren't the Ood freed?
Not only were they
Was that
freed, but
in-
they're supposed to be standing there with a
Wait.
little brain in their hands.
Didn't I was gonna say I don't think they even got the balls until the future.
Depends on when they picked up this
Well,
Ood.
again, Time Lords, but that
Yeah.
didn't bother me
Yeah.
so much. But the fact that this Ood wasn't fixed by the doctor, fixing the Ood's thing, which affected them throughout time. No, I'm not buying it. Or was it just because the Division operated outside time? Well, again, bullshitty answer.
Also, Time Lord outside of time, you'd think it would have affected her negatively.
Yeah, you would think
if that
so.
were the case.
Now, before they revealed who who that was, I had an answer that I would have accepted.
Mm.
Existing outside of the universe, having to be converted to get there. I'm thinking, oh my god, is this a new incarnation of Omega?
That could have been an
Hmm.
answer. An
That
interesting
could have
one.
worked.
Or,
That would have been interesting.
or just as
But
just as possible, but not as well liked. Maybe also another new version of Rassilon.
not quite as likey.
Yeah, but being
Not
outside
quite
the
as not.
universe and doing all this shady business behind the scenes. Oh, that's totally an Omega thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Why make a new Omega when you already
Mhm.
had, or a new Omega when you had an Omega?
I could give you an answer to that.
It would have actually have made this intriguing.
It would have
That
made it
this
more
is some
intriguing,
that
but it wouldn't have elaborated how the episode ended. What did the five fingers say to the face? Dissolve.
Yeah, I'm still wondering where that is going, but yeah. Because if that's the complete end of that character,
What a waste of a
then
character. What a waste
what
of
a
a
waste of a
nude
character.
background for the Doctor too.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you've gone through all of this dealing with this, and that's how you deal with it. It's very Snoke.
Yeah. Actually, now that you mention it, yeah.
And that's a massive disappointment. So yeah, I have 100 things I dislike, and that's touching on a few of them. Let's go to favorite scenes, just before I start frothing at the mouth.
Right.
I'm trying to decide if there's a scene that I like other than the very obvious low-hanging fruit. And you know what? I guess I'll go with my second best. I have some issues with it, but it's a fun scene.
Oh, go
And
for
I'm
the low-hanging
go
fruit.
for the low-hanging
Make it
fruit.
make it harder for the rest of us. You that's
Okay,
why we roll to
That's
see who
what
goes
that's what we
first.
roll. So
fine.
you get dibs on the easy one, whatever you
All
think is an
right.
easy one.
So Kate Stewart coming
Oh,
fully prepared with all the knowledge, all the tech. Like, fuck you. I know who you are. I know what you are. I'm going to fight you. And if you fight back, I'm also going to call the doctor on you. And being
You don't
completely
want to
prepared.
mess with the doctor. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean, it was, the triumphant return of the character after years. And she was, completely competent, completely like it. It built up
Hmm.
stakes for the future. It
and
did
she's
everything
totally on
right
top
as
of
a
it,
teaser.
even if she's being partially caught off guard. She's like, I know exactly what I need to do. Bye.
Right.
And can I just say that it's a good thing that this was on a TV screen and not actually in front of me? Because I would have hugged the stuffing out of her.
So happy to see you back.
You're back. You're badass. You're taking charge again. Fucking love it.
I will say I was very worried that they were going to kill her off. So when she runs away
I
from the
didn't even
door
know
when
to
it
expect
blows
her in
up,
this
I was like,
episode.
"Oh,
To be
thank
fair,
God."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
they
know to
showed her
expect
up
her, and as
just
soon
to
as
kill
I
her
saw
off.
her reaction to hearing that ticking on her door when she unlocked it, I'm like, yes, duck, boom, yes, go.
Hmm.
But yeah, if they had just had her show up just to kill her off, I would have been
Oh,
Yeah.
so.
but
Oh
absolutely
yeah, that would
livid.
have definitely.
Yeah.
I
But they didn't. She's taken charge.
Hmm.
We have a Lethbridge Stewart on the road on the warpath. Yes.
of course she didn't. There was no 5 rounds rapid scene, but maybe next
She
episode.
maybe next episode. Yeah, she's definitely got next episode for 5 rounds rapid.
If they ever have her say that, it's one again. It's going to be me resisting the urge to hug her.
Oh,
Seriously.
also, if we find out that the Grand Serpent is immune to bullets, and she's like, it's just like Dad always said.
Some days 5 rounds rapid just click, doesn't work. Click, click.
Not when the doctor's involved.
All right. So
So that was
Oh,
Bill's. So
Matt.
to me,
Yep.
Yeah.
favorite scene. Actually, when we finally figured when cave digging guy finally gets involved in plot, and Yaz walks up to him and just goes, "We're trying to find this, this, that, and the next thing for the time, and we're trying to save the world, but we don't know when or where." And then you just get this slow recognition from this guy, and you can literally see he's fighting to just outright hug her, just like Randy was talking about with Stuart, and just like, yes, finally, finding people who understand. Yes, this way, come.
And of course, this is after, of course, Dan blustered. I'll talk to him. One scout to another, and it's like,
And completely foobarred.
which is another. Well, that seems to be Dan's purpose in this.
Yes.
But I do love the fact that that does give once again Yaz a chance to snark at Dan.
Yes. That was the one, like, I don't think I could have imagined that line coming from the Doctor. That was 100% Yaz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the doctor would have already known that this guy knew exactly what was going on and would be helping lead him right back to the doors. Maybe not expecting exactly the way they would look, but expecting something along those lines.
Oh, are you from Liverpool, Dan? Why haven't you mentioned it?
That was just this great Liverpool Sheffield moment. That was on my favorites list, but you took it. Now let's see what Alex can come up with, and ruins me completely.
I'm going to go with the scene with like the guru in Nepal or whatever it was.
Oh God,
just because
that was on my list too.
That was my second choice.
Yeah, because that is like you expect. Like I'm just expecting. Oh god, it's gonna be like a racial stereotype thing. And then like
I almost half wondered for a moment. Then as they continued on, it's like, oh, this guy's almost like Matt Smith. This is a little weird, but interesting.
He's just like, oh, it took you long enough. And it's just giving them shit the whole time.
That I was not expecting it to go that way. I was glad it did.
Yeah.
You said you had a couple of issues with it, Bill. Go ahead.
It's kind of like I said. I liked the scene more than I disliked it, but it's just something like the character was so over the top. It kind of felt like it didn't fit in the episode. Like the combination of like the wide open eyes and the tone of voice, like it felt like something from like a comedy movie that is like a very different tone than Doctor Who. And I mean, you can kind of get away with it because he's a hermit and all of that. So he's like, you expect him to be weird and not like other people. But he wasn't like Doctor Weird. He was like, I visited
I've been out
you
here
from
way too
another
long,
show weird.
That didn't bother me. It was the fact that he was a complete anachronism for the time. I mean, he didn't quite say it, but his attitude was very "what up, dudes."
True.
And he kind of felt like if somebody went to go visit a hermit today, you know, you heard there was a hermit in Nepal today, and you went to Nepal, climbed a mountain, found him, you might and he's talked like that, you could believe it. But this was 1904.
Well, I guess part of that is, he's supposed to see the future, right? So
maybe his brain's been in the future a little too long.
Apparently.
Although they never say his name. Didn't the Doctor have a Time Lord friend who became a hermit?
Oh.
And had that sort of like skin tone?
Oh my god.
From the Third Doctor.
Yes, the Third Doctor.
Kimpo, yeah. Yeah, I gotta wonder if that might have been like a Kimpo or a Kimpo related character.
Do they actually list that character's name on the
let's find out.
On the episode wiki? Because that if it's just the seer, that is going to be my headcanon from now on.
That he's like Kimpo related?
That he's a previous incarnation of Kempo Choji.
Mm-hmm. That in and of itself, on some level, would make sense.
There's a lot of names, so some of them I have to
Yep.
click on the actor to see if they match up.
Kumar
Is that Kumar?
has to be.
Okay.
Has to
Yeah, that
be.
seems to be as good a fit as I can tell.
That's the only name I'm not seeing that I know. Unfortunately, the actor is not linkable, so
His friend
Yeah.
Harold was getting some burgers.
apparently. And apparently they found a hot tub time machine, and that's why we know. Let me check.
Yeah, looking at the actors, like the pictures that come up for the actor in Google, I'd say it's probably them. Though it's hard to.
Yep.
It's a bit different because they don't have the beard.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that looks like him.
Yeah, IMDb lists him. So
Yep.
yeah.
So yeah. That's the character. I will still headcanon it that it's a previous incarnation of Kempo Choji. I'm just
Yeah, Kumar
I mean,
just
there's
came
so
before
far nothing
Chochi,
to.
and eventually was reborn.
Okay, so where are we at for favorite scenes?
That
I think
was
you.
that was.
Okay.
No, I thought that
Wait, I
was
thought that
yours.
was Alec.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
That
I
was
just went. So yeah.
So yeah, it's Randy's
Yeah,
turn now.
so-
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose as my favorite scenes the whole bit between Belle and Carnavista. I don't know why. I just found it amusing, especially when they're shooting at each other. They get attacked and they both stop and go, "What? Is that you?"
That
They go from
scene actually made me think, like you mentioned, like the writing by committee thing. And I was like, somebody on this writing team really likes that gimmick because they did the same thing in episode 2 with the Doctor and Dan.
Yeah, it is a gimmick, and I think it might be a Buffyism.
Maybe.
But I like that. I like that sense of comedic timing. I just like the fact that they go from trying to kill each other to working together in a
Boom.
matter.
What was that? You boom. No, was that you? Seriously, boom. Oh shoot, what's going on?
Well, we know Carnavista can, no scope a dozen Centaurans in 2 seconds, so they should be fine.
Yeah, they should be. Their ship
Okay.
should be fine. It's what's going to happen to the others. That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, this thing was built to hold up against the Flux, and it can't hold up to a Centauran battlecruiser.
Well,
What
apparently
the
they
hell,
attached the outside and
Scooby-Doo?
started to unweld the door open.
What the hell? I mean, and this is the. I mean, we saw Bell's ship get raided before by Cybermen. You know? What
Yeah.
the hell, Scooby-Doo? You're not building your ships to code? Anyway, least favorite scenes as we are running long.
I got distracted with the conversation. Least favorite scene. Just going through in my head.
I mean, it's the penultimate episode, so I'm willing to be forgiving here.
Do you just want?
Focused. I should have focused. Yeah, go ahead before me, so I'm not holding us up.
Yeah, because we're just literally pausing here for over a minute.
Yeah.
All right, skipping that, going to Matt.
Least favorite scene. Honestly, yeah, I'm gonna go with the reveal that Division Lady was Tectoon. That was just like, oh, for real.
Yeah, like I said, there is a dozen ways that could have been better.
There's a moment of, oh, for real, and let me guess, something bad's gonna happen, and we're not gonna get anything satisfactory out of this character. Yep. Fuck.
Yep. Yeah, that was a
Immediately
bad
brought
one.
back into the plot just to be permanently removed from the franchise forever. Bye! How they do you, and we already hate you anyways.
And I'm gonna say mine is not the exact like the finding out who she is, but kind of the whole argument that stemmed from it. Because it's all. I mean, granted, like for the doctor, like this is 100 years in coming because it's all she was thinking about in prison and whatever. But still, this whole like even Tech Dayun points it out, like you're arguing over these hypotheticals that you have no idea are true. We also have much more pressing matters at the moment than, you know, who potential like what direction you are going through the wormhole and all of that. Like, is this really what we need to be spending our time arguing about right now? And it's if she knew Tecteun was about to die, then yeah, maybe. But she didn't. But she knew the universe was being destroyed. So maybe that should have been the highest priority at that moment.
Yeah, the doctor's not exactly working on all thrusters right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is bad.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was mine.
Alex?
Alex, yep.
God, I had one. You know what? I'm gonna have to latch on to that and the specific line of, you wouldn't, the sort of like, you wouldn't be who you are if it wasn't for me stuff, because that's very like, there are some other stuff I've let slide with the timeless child stuff, or I've just kind of let it roll off my back because I'm like, this kind of level of importance for the Doctor was going to happen at some point. But this character literally saying, you wouldn't be the Doctor if it wasn't for me, is very like,
That's
damn
exactly the moment where I instantly had a Conan reaction, and I'm like, chop her head off.
it.
Fake also doom this lady right now. I've had enough already. The big bats came in and did it for
And
me
that-
anyways, so.
And that in this character is like the absolutely like undoctor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which does not help.
Yeah.
Like, really? The Doctor wouldn't be like without you? What'd you do? Instill in her a sense of morality? No, I don't think so.
If anything, she instilled in the Doctor a sense of what not to do.
So,
But anywho, yeah. Is that it, Alex?
Yeah.
Alright, so Ran.
okay, I've got a couple that didn't come up.
Good.
First is them trying to warn Carnavista
Oh yeah, that was what?
120 years later by putting white paint on the ground.
Oh yeah, what? Why was that the fucking Great Wall of China? Were they going with that bullshit that's not even true about it being the only thing you can see from space?
Yes.
Because they didn't even paint it on the wall; they painted it on the ground next to the wall.
Correct. And that was, in a place, haven't you ever heard of weather and erosion?
Yeah.
Right.
120 years, white paint would not last sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
It's not like there's been no war or like change in society
Or like half that
anything that
wall has
might have
come
caused
down or
people to,
anything.
build over it or walk over it or anything like that.
Now, there are
Yeah.
places in this world where you could do something like that, and it would be held in perpetuity. Say the Nazca Plateau in South America. You ever heard of the Nazca lines?
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're lines drawn in the ground by
Oh, right.
I think the Incans.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been there for hundreds of years and will be there for hundreds more. That's because the Nazca Plateau is flat and dry.
Which means it's
Which
not
So it gets,
eroding whatsoever, or very little
it's
if at all.
eroding a little bit. There is some rain, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to China, which has a pretty temperate, I wouldn't say rainy, but I wouldn't say dry climate.
I mean,
Um,
depending on what part of the country part of one of their major crops is rice, which requires a ton of rain.
although that's more southern China
Mm-hmm.
versus northern China, but still,
Right.
yeah. But there are other places where you could do that. Why they chose to do it in China next to the Great Wall is kind of stupid.
That actually reminds me, one issue I had with the fetch your dog scene is, at least so far, it doesn't make sense and it didn't lead to anything meaningful. But it might lead to something meaningful later.
Yeah,
It basically led them into
bumping
bumping into the cave guy, and that's what they really needed.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so they did that
For useless reasons.
for you, and that was useless. That was one of mine. My other is, of course, what I mentioned earlier with the duo showing up and just touching Tekeyun and just ending that character literally minutes after the grand reveal.
Yeah.
That was like kind of a giant, like I said, it's a very Snoke thing. Oh yes, I'm behind doing this. I set off the flux to stop you.
I
Nope.
set the Flux to stop you. I set up the division. I stole these things from you and possibly murdered you thousands of times over. And all this and that, and I stole your memories, and I'm dead. Bye.
Yeah.
Shakehead.
If you're not a Star Wars fan, the reveal and then dealing with of Snoke is considered one of the biggest disappointments in the Star Wars sequels.
Yeah, we were
It was
hoping
all
some
this
sort of
build-up for
interesting
nothing.
new big bad. Instead, he
I mean, to
just
be
gets
fair, there
wiped
wasn't
out
much
and no one
build to
cares.
him. He just kind of existed to die in my mind, but
Yeah,
There could have been so much more. That's what he became. He could have been a lot more than that.
That's what he was. Yeah, but that's not what he was built up to be. Beforehand, he was built up like he was the big bad, like he was the next emperor.
Yeah. And then they just
And there's
wasted
a big
it.
difference. The Emperor was kind of introduced to die, but he made a hell of a lot more of an impression in the process.
And that's the thing. I mean, we just got to meet this character in person, and 10 minutes later, he's fucking dead. And that's kind of what just happened here.
Mm-hmm. Only we got more out of Tectarian than we did Snoke, technically.
Yeah, we got some of Tectayun's history, which we never got with Snoke.
Okay. I still think it was a very Snoke-like turn.
It still
And
was. She was still wasted before she could become really useful to the main plot.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the last person Chibnall should be looking at is Rian Johnson. Yeah. For writing help. Anyway, those are my two things. So now we go to final thoughts, so we can end this.
Bill.
One thing I don't think any of us have mentioned that definitely would have considered is the whole thing of, oh, we're destroying the whole universe because of you, and then really not elaborating what, I mean, I guess because the Doctor inspired people. I'm not sure why that required the whole universe to go.
Because that was
That undermines the division.
Yeah, they're basically the NWO, only on a universal scale. They want absolute control, and the people with hope
And the
beliefs,
Doctor introduces chaos.
chaos, and
in a
people's
positive way.
willingness to. to break their control.
Mm-hmm. So we can't have that running around in our next universe.
It does make the Division sound like a bunch of really uber bad guys.
Yeah. So yeah, my thoughts in general, there's a few good moments in this episode. I like the idea of the companions going on a quest. I like the way they called back to Jericho's expertise, and how, that was part of their quest. But there was definitely a lot of mess, a lot of things that are not that great, especially involving the Doctor's plot. And at this point, at this point, I don't know if there's a way the Doctor can survive without it coming off as completely contrived, but we shall see. Maybe the Ood will come behind and hit Swarm with his ball or something. Otherwise, yeah, it really depends on how the final episode comes out. But this one, I think, does not make me feel more positive about the season overall. While some of the episodes did, I would say this one does kind of leave me a little less optimistic than I was before, which is not a good thing. But yeah, let's see how the final episode wraps it up.
All right. For me, finally some split ends are starting to intertwine properly, but there's still a bunch more questions that need to be very quickly answered. And the fact that the whole undermining of the Doctor's history is still ongoing and is being doubled down on is kind of just... That being said, I'm still enjoying that we have some new decent characters. And I'm interested to see how the three-way battle for Earth goes, because if nothing else, I do enjoy the monsters of Doctor Who, the classic monsters. And it's going to be a big three-way fight, so let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, let's do it. It's the next step up from the Cybermen versus Daleks. It's also Centaurans. Get the bigger guns.
Is there another big recurring enemy in Doctor Who, or is this as high stakes as it comes?
Is there another big enemy?
Not counting the Time Lords. Classic, the Silurians. Modern, the Weeping Angels.
I mean, they haven't shown up enough, otherwise I'd maybe say the Autons.
They've recurred a few times. But
yeah, they've had 3 stories, I think.
Maybe the Jadoon? But they'd almost blend in with the Centaurans, depending on which outfit they're using.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is as high stakes as it comes for
at least for classic monsters, yeah.
I mean, in terms of whole races, as you mentioned, there's the potential of the Master, who tends to overshadow entire planets at times.
There is part of me that still expects the Master to be behind this somehow.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, you know how you would up the ante outside after this battle with these 3 armies is you add in like literally all the other renegade Time Lords one after the other. Just everybody is involved now.
Oh yeah, well, knowing how the writing's going, that wouldn't surprise me. You find the Master, the Ronnie, the Monk, and everybody has formed the Legion of Doom.
Basically, Legion of Doom to outdo the Division and just go fuck you.
And at that point, that's about the point I hang the mic up and just walk away. When did Doctor Who become Challenge of the Super Friends?
Actually, you know what the 4th army should be? A new division of Unit. That'd be one I could get behind, is that Earth gets to fight back.
Well, according to that's what's going to be happening.
We'll see.
With Kate Stewart leading Earth's resistance, yes.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how what level that is, because just guys in uniforms just blasting away the other 3 armies would be great.
What would be great is if one of her one of her subordinates was the son of a man named Benton.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we are up to Alex.
Yep. This is definitely like, as it's been going on, I've been getting a bit more wary, and now I really am at the point where I'm just worried about whether they're actually going to be able to wrap this up. I mean, like, I am like worried that it's like, is some of this just going to be left hanging for the specials now? Because
That would not surprise me.
they're
That'd be
like,
grown worthy, but yeah, it would almost be
Mm.
suspicion.
and like with like the Grand Serpent, fair. Like I would be fine with that, but at least if the main plot
Yes, the
gets
main plot needs to
resolved.
get solved, and everything tied to it needs to get solved.
Yeah. But stuff like if the Grand Serpent gets away or whatever, fair. But like I am just kind of worried now that it's like, oh god, we've only got one episode left, and it feels like there should be two more.
At
Well,
least
we don't know the length of the next episode.
that's true
True.
too. They do tend to
I
flux in how much time they give episodes for shows these days.
yeah. I could definitely see the finale being over now. With how much they've got left to do. But yeah,
We get Flux Chapter 6 Part 1 and Flux Chapter 6 Part 2.
Well, I have compared Swarm to Voldemort.
Yeah, like I'm
The Doctor Who lived,
hoping
come to die.
like I'm definitely hoping that this somehow like wraps up in a way that's like, okay, good, this was all worth it, but what
Mm.
what the cautious optimism I went into this with has been waning. So yeah.
Anything more?
No, that's all I've got.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, I liked some of the writing on this. I loved seeing Unit, at
Mhm.
least Kate Stewart, back in
Mm.
action. I loved some of the other pieces, but yeah, as far as the overall story, I'm not liking where this is going, but I kind of figured I wouldn't. So kind of par for the course for me. I am surprised that none of our plot threads have gotten tied up yet. I figured they would have
Mm.
started tying plots this episode, but instead everything is hanging over our heads
If
and
anything,
is
the
all
threads have
going
all
to be
grouped
in.
together, but now we're just waiting for them to actually tie together.
Yep.
Mm.
Now we've just got
I
one
mean,
plot.
they tied the plot of who is this lady in the vision.
I'll talk to you, and
Yeah,
pow, dead.
yeah, and then killed her before we could reveal anything further. I guess we're gonna see how it goes next week. I could not have rated this episode by itself. There is too much left hanging.
See you all
Yeah,
next
even if we
time.
rated all the others, it would be like part 1 of a 2-parter.
See you all next week.
So,
Same bat time,
Yep.
same bat channel.
well, hold on. And Bill, take us
Yes. So, yes, if you're watching this video on demand, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think of Flux so far. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to get our exports each week. Or follow us on Twitch to get our streams every Tuesday night, including the Flux finale next Tuesday. Oh, that was your part.
Yes, it is. So, as I was about to say, next time, finally, we're at the end, the finale. We're allowed to vote again! Yay! Join us next week as we put Flux to bed with episode 6, The Vanquishers. Written by Chris Chibnall and starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Mandeep Gill as Yaz, John Bishop as Dan Lewis, and everybody else that's in this ensemble cast. Dear God.
I think I
Keep
know.
your
How many of
fingers
them will
crossed.
How many of them will survive and want to be on the TARDIS for New Year?
I think I know what needs to be vanquished. All these plot threads. Good night.
All right. Good night, everybody.